Cinema 9 podcast. It's time for Does It Hold Up? Later in the show, actually, it's not time for. But today's show is about Ravenous. Does it hold up or not? We'll focus on that in our main event, like we always do on every episode, which you usually find about 40 minutes into the show. So if you're new to a Cinema 9 podcast at all, please skip ahead to the main part. If you're just dying, if you're ravenous for Ravenous, you can skip ahead to the 40-minute mark or so, usually on our episodes, if you don't like our previous banter. But we kind of like our previous banter. We feel like we have something to offer, and that's why we do the show. He's Travis Roy. That's Eric Brancham. I'm Michael Govier. Travis, do you enjoy our opening segments?
It's pretty much my only social life, so I'm going to say yes. I like it.
Can I laugh at that?
I think it's like one of those laugh cries because it's like, yeah, that's sad but true.
yeah. That's yeah.
Maybe after Omicron we'll have a life
again.
Yeah, it is. Watch that first
step. Watch that first step. Needle nose Ned. Eric Brancham, I know you love our opening segments where we talk about our lives. We mention some movies here and there. We review stuff. It's pretty cool.
It's a great opportunity to get some suggestions you may not have heard from in your own social inner circle. Again, it's the two of you, and I haven't seen one of you in person in 2 years, so
that's not true. That's not true. Come on, you forgot. Well, you forgot Travis wasn't there, but you saw me at the feast.
Sure. Yeah, but yeah, we have a lot of fun.
Well,
I think it's important that we did see each other in real life.
So. Yeah, no, it's true. I wish I was there. But it's good to see you guys now, and it's good to have everybody joining in. If you're a regular listener, thank you for rejoining us. If you're, a one-time or new-time listener, hello, welcome, stay a while, have a bite of stew.
Stew. Yeah, John Spencer loves stew. He really does. Just couldn't help himself.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone enjoy stew as much as John Spencer coming at the very end of the movie, be like, acting.
That was ridiculous. Yeah. Also, his hair was ridiculous, which we'll talk about later when we focus on Does It Hold Up or Not? Ravenous, 1999 selection from Eric Brancham. He chose this film. I got a comment on Twitter today before the show, which you guys can tweet at us, Cinema9Pod, or me personally, MJ Govier, or Roysevar, ROYSERVOI. VOIR. Yeah, right. Eric, I don't know if you use your Twitter much.
Only Roysevar instead of
That's probably an easier way to describe it. So, yeah. But Eric is on the Twitter. He doesn't use it much, but I did tag him and gave full credit to you because Ravens fan, which I thought was weird. He loves Ravenous, and then his handle was related to the Ravens. I didn't know if there was a connection or not, but that's a football team, so it's strange.
I never made the connection between those words, but you're right. There's probably an etymological thing going on there, I bet.
Have you ever done history on that?
No, can't say that I have. Not specifically on the history of the word ravenous, but I think you're onto something there with raven. I never thought of it before, but it makes sense. Like acting like a raven, basically.
Acting. So Ricky Bobby is Raven fan 5255 says, Mike, you have been naming some classics. This movie legit gave me nightmares when I was younger. Creepy and twisted. All right. Well, I gave full credit to Eric because he's the one who chose it, and I made sure that was on the record. So we're glad that you're a fan of the movie, and hopefully you're watching this episode. If you haven't been watching before, it's good to have you here. This is what we do. We love talking movies. We're almost coming up to 100 episodes. We got some exciting plans for our 100th, don't we, Travis?
We do. We're going to have some guests. We're going to have the boys, both of them, I believe, from the podcast Podcasting After Dark, which if you're not familiar, you should by all means check them out.
Incredible.
Yeah, great podcast. Very funny guys doing deep dives on some of the most obscure movies you could think of.
Yeah.
But always like classics in their own right. And they also will do other kind of like tangential. It's not just movies. They'll get into TV shows from the 80s and toys and stuff like that. So definitely check out Podcasting After Dark.
If you like podcasts about movies, that's an obvious. But if you also like podcasts about specific genres or actors, Travis, did you show up again on the Cage Raid podcast, or was this an original episode?
So we had Daryl Edge from the Cage Rage podcast on for Weatherman a couple months back. And shortly after that, I recorded with him for the movie Arsenal, also known as Southern Fury in some places, for whatever reason. And he took a little bit of a hiatus over the holidays, so he just kind of came back. And so while I recorded it all the way back in December, that episode is now available.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's what that is. Well, that's good. If you guys never caught the episode, it is available. Make sure you get your ass to Mars and check out the Cage Rage podcast with our friend Daryl and listen to what Travis has to say. If somebody knows the most about Nicolas Cage, as far as anybody I know, it's got to be Travis Roy.
I like the man very much.
I don't know if you know anything about it personally. Like, if
you know, it's funny.
Him, but...
I don't want to get too much into the bad trouble I had a couple weeks ago, but when I was going through a rough spot recently, I'll probably never be able to watch the movie Pig again, as much as I love it for reasons. But I really did, like, for whatever reason, when I was going through that, I went and I listened to a ton of Nick Cage interviews about the movie Pig, and I loved it. And I realized I actually never really did delve that deep into his personal life. I've heard things here and there, like we all have castles, weird cars, you know, like you hear like random shit, tax trouble. But I never really dug that much into his personal life very much, you know, you're probably more than most people would know, but I didn't like research him, man. So it was actually pretty cool to hear him talk about his craft and feel like I got to know Nick a little bit better.
Right on.
Respectable. I am glad to hear that Nick Cage is offering the world to people who need it, especially when you need something to get away from, or you're just looking for solace. Listen to Nick Cage's interviews. That's news to me. I actually did watch a clip of him recently on, TikTok. They have all these just endless videos that come at you, boom, 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 boom. And I think Nick Cage popped up in a quick interview with, some other actor. Oh, it's John Krasinski. They were talking about big budget films and studio notes, which was always, it was fascinating to get his point about, studio notes. Fuck that stuff. Because you just never know what's going to happen. And Nick Cage was also very poignant when he was discussing that. So that makes sense.
He's a poignant man.
He's by the way, do you want to tell people about your wonderful John Cena gifts? Because last week the John Cena Fest was in full effect.
Yeah.
And you got John Cena gifts sent to your door.
I absolutely was going to address that. I figured I'd do it when at any rate. First of all, so I'm wearing a John Cena t-shirt right now, and you'll see that if you're watching the video, you'll see I've got a really nice McFarlane Toys Peacemaker toy here. Looks startlingly like the man. And last week, I regret that I didn't use the phrase Cena-file, so I'm glad I got the chance to use that this time. But, I was talking about how I was very sad last week or a couple weeks ago when I had to take time off, and, how it had been John Cena that, for whatever reason, I had kind of latched onto in my depression as an escape and a form of comfort and solace. And dear friend of the show, dear friend of mine, Aaron Worley, Eric, you can mute yourself, if you're going to search around for shit. I'm sorry. As I was saying, but good friend of mine and of the show, Aaron Worley, very kindly sent me a Cena care package that was just like this t-shirt, this lime green fluorescent John Cena t-shirt, and the Peacemaker toy there, which was what a nice thing to do, really. And he did it anonymously. I didn't know it was him at first, but I kind of figured it had to be him, so that was really sweet of him. That was really, really sweet of him.
That really was. I mean, that's like, what? Shit. That's above and beyond. That is great news, man.
It was really nice.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for everybody. We got good friends, man. Damn.
Yeah. As bad as what I recently went through was, it has been really nice having so many people be supportive, and it's been really beautiful for that reason alone.
That is so cool. Well, that makes us happy. Aaron, we love you on this show, so we always will love you on this show, and we'll love you in real life too. Thanks for doing that. You're a good guy. All right, so there it is. As a little opening chatter, I guess. Not that we have a quota or requirements. We just kind of talked about stuff, and now we're going to talk about
other
viewing picks.
Oh, yeah. Quarantine viewing picks. Time to get into what we've been watching. I didn't watch that much this week. It was kind of a busy week, but I did check off a few new films, lots of 2021 films. Other than The Change Up, for some reason I revisited The Change Up. I guess it might continued. I kind of got confused with what's the other Jason Bateman, Jennifer Aniston film? I thought Jennifer Aniston was going to pop up, and then she never did.
The Switch Up?
The Switch Up, which is another
The
Jason
Change Up? Wait.
No, there's the Change Up is with Ryan Reynolds, where they get vice versa into different bodies, which was very 2011, just extremely like, oof, like, oh, but still okay. And then I also revisited The Father from 2020 for the other podcast I have with friend of the show, Chad Gibbons. The Best Film Podcast with Chad and Travis. Check that out.
Hey, Chad.
So new releases, I think I'll go in order that I in backwards order of least liked to most liked. I watched Nightmare Alley from 2021 from Guillermo del Toro. Eric, did you end up watching it? No. So it's on HBO Max now, and my expectations may have been a bit too high for this one.
Well, it's Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, it is, and so I will put this more in the category of Crimson Peak than The Shape of Water. You know what I mean? It was good. It was good. And there's some things as a historian I loved about it. There needs to be more films set in the late 30s, early 40s that have nothing to do with World War II. That was really nice. I love that it had to do with the carnival and that kind of stuff. But that first hour was really strong, and then it shifted gears plot-wise. No spoilers, but it shifted gears and just kind of went down a road that I just wasn't interested in. There was another hour and a half to go after that, and I just kind of I mean, great performance from Bradley Cooper. I mean, the man took a little bit of a break, and it's good to have him back, and he came back strong. I mean, he really can act, and there is some good stuff in here. I will revisit it. I'll revisit it. Maybe with lowered expectations a few years down the line, I might get more out of it.
I never saw Fish Out of Water. God, what a dumbass I am. That's
Fishman the movie. You didn't see Fishman the movie?
I've heard all the jokes about the fish fucking and stuff, and I feel like it's ruined it because I might as well just not see it now. But I feel like there's more to it than that. I will.
Yeah, there's significantly more to it than that.
Okay, good.
Right. That's definitely, especially, and you're a Michael Shannon fan, so you would like that. He's big in it. It's a big role for him. For that alone, you should watch it.
I want to make some. You brought it up real quick.
Go on, yeah.
Kind of. I respect the hell out of Michael Shannon.
Oh, you're not a fan. I don't know why.
No. I'm not saying I'm not a fan. You guys are definitely fan, and there's huge fans. He has I feel like he's got a hardcore following. The people that are dedicated to him.
Yeah, he does.
And he's a really good actor. I have nothing but immense respect for him, but there's something about him that makes me uncomfortable, and I'm not even sure what it is. I got to look into that.
I think that's one of the things I like about him is he's a little off kilter. He kind of makes the viewer feel on edge. Even
he does.
And I like that about it. But I will try and store that in the old memory bank that you're of moderate fandom of Mr. Shannon.
I gotta figure out. I'm gonna go to therapy to talk about why I got problems with Michael Shannon.
There's something about his jaw. I don't know. Makes me think of Jaws from Jaws from the Bond series. Anyway.
Can you imagine the asshole that goes in for shit like that, and some doctor or some culture's got to deal with that? Oh, you poor people.
I think I've been that asshole. Another movie that's getting a lot of high praise that I certainly enjoyed, didn't quite live up to my expectations, but it was good, was Last Night in Soho from Edgar Wright, which I think his stuff personally is strongest when he stays away from computer generated imagery and the stuff, so the stuff like Hot Fuzz and stuff like Shaun of the Dead, more practical effects type stuff is usually I'm pretty into it. When you start getting into like The World's End and the one that everyone loves, Scott Pilgrim, I just feel really detached from that stuff. It just I never get invested in it, and that's kind of how I felt with this one. I never got invested in it. Unique ghost story. Did either one of you guys see this one yet?
No.
It's a unique movie. It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, so Last Night in Soho, worth seeing. The one I saw that I liked the most this week, which I've been back and forth on David Lowery's movies, but The Green Knight was definitely something I really, really enjoyed. Did you catch it, Eric?
No, it's at the top of my list.
Yeah, it's been at the top of mine for a while too, and it's been very few times the last couple years where I was like, damn, I really wish I had seen this one in theaters, but I wish I'd seen this one in theaters. This is a really well-directed movie. I can imagine it's not for everyone. There's a couple choices in it where I was like, why am I looking at this right now? But overall, I think this might be the best directed film of the year, in my opinion. I mean, it looks fantastic. It's a really unique, but also really faithful take on the story, which was cool. As I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. I used to read this story all the time. Like as a little kid, I just kind of had forgotten that I'd done that. So and it was a good movie. So I'm definitely going to recommend The Green Knight.
Cool.
That was on Aaron's top 5 last week, right?
I believe it was. It was also on, as I mentioned, friend of the show. Friend of the show, Chad. I think he said it was, other than Dune, it was his favorite movie of 2021. So I was like, all right, it's getting a lot of high praise. I should check it out, and worth it.
After a Ghost Story, it's been tough for me to rush to Lowry's films. But
dude, I turned Ghost Story off.
Yeah, so did I. I fucking hated it. But The Body Saints. Pete's Dragon. I even like this Pete's Dragon, but after a Ghost Story.
Well, I think I can. This is worth it. This is worth your time.
Cool.
Okay.
All
What
right.
about you, Eric Brasher? What you been watching, buddy?
Fuck. I watched Pump Up the Volume earlier today.
Oh yeah,
Classic.
yeah.
Never seen this
Movie gets
movie.
better.
1990. I just
never
never
saw
seen
it?
its poster. No, I still remember in 1990
boy.
being at the video store at the Universal Sight and Sound in Brighton. They had the huge cardboard cutout of Christian Slater, like just like looking at me, like in the DJ booth. And I remember even as a kid being like, "Who cares? Like, who cares about you being a DJ?" I had no clue what it was even about until I watched it this morning. But
How'd it go down without any nostalgia behind it?
To be honest with you. That first hour, I really, really enjoyed, and then it kind of runs out of things to say, and it just kind of like peters out for me. I'm just being honest with you, man. Like, because it throws like all this really important high school stuff, suicide and sexual questioning your way in a way that I didn't really see in a high school quote unquote movie before, and it's edgy as fuck. I mean, the soundtrack is fucking unbelievable. Like, I was like, my mind was blown every 5 seconds. Dead Kennedys, or no, Descendants, MC5, Pixies, Leonard Cohen, just amazing. And Samantha Mathis, so talented, so beautiful, missing in action currently, but I always love seeing her. But like I said, after he's trying to figure out like, what do I do? They found they're coming to get me. I was like, all right, whatever, who cares?
Dude, I watched this several months ago. It's probably more months than I even realized. Man, time is just getting so bizarre these days. It really is.
Well, dude.
I watched it and I was like, this movie is going to be timeless. This movie is actually getting more poignant. That was my updated response to Pump Up the Volume. It's got a really, really timeless message.
You say that, but I'm watching it. I'm like, well, Christ, this is like, what, 15 years before YouTube where everybody has a voice that they can instantly put out there for everyone to hear. Everyone kind of has their own show now. So like,
what's that like?
To think of the time. Exactly. Look at us. But like, to think of like just one person's message, like getting to so many people and making them change their minds. And I'm talking about a teenager you're not going to see just something like that today, but it's interesting. And the whole, like what did we have? Like in 1990, we just had our music and like the movies that we all like, but like, unless you were friends with someone who had a specific voice that could speak to you, or a teacher that had some balls, like you weren't getting, much valuable advice, especially from parents. But I dug the film. I just thought it petered out a little bit. So yeah, Pump Up the Volume. But I'm thinking like, you don't recognize that voice. You guys are all trying to figure out who this is in your school. It's like the most distinct voice I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, but it was scrambled. Yeah. It caught on to him. I'm like, oh yeah, he had to scramble his voice because he knows.
Right.
Wow, that is funny.
Sounds like a young Jack Nicholson. What are you gonna do?
Right.
Oh, yeah, remember the comps? God, the comps in the 90s. He's the next Jack Nicholson. Those comps were everywhere. And this is in a time when there is no internet. Well, the internet technically existed, but you know what I mean? It just, this was in a period of time where
was talking
magazines...
about Christian Slater.
Yeah.
Shit, man.
Yep.
After Tick Tick Boom, I had to go back and watch Rent. Chris Columbus directed the
Chris Columbus directed it?
Of all people.
How was it? I've been meaning.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I was just so blown away by Tick Tick Boom, and mostly because of this story of this true person that inspired me so much.
Mm-hmm.
The work is for 1995. I think he wrote it because he passed in 96, like on the eve of its premiere in New York. just so poignant in what he was saying in the mid 90s. So, and I like the songs a lot. And to be honest, like when it started, I'm like, oh fuck, Rosario Dawson. Like, I don't know if you know this about me, but like I've never liked this girl before. And I cannot put my finger. It's like kind of like a Michael Shannon thing I was talking to my therapist about the other night. I'm like, Rosario Dawson, like I don't understand the hype, but she was my favorite part of the movie, to be honest with you. And you know, it was Chris Columbus. I give him credit. First musical, and he shot it beautifully. It was really entertaining and fun. So yeah, I dug the film.
As what's his face in it? Wasn't he the guy from Days of Confused?
Yeah, Anthony Rapp. He's fine in it. Like points a camera at stuff. But Idina Menzel.
I think he was in the original too.
Mind
so I was
blowing.
just curious.
Yeah, most of the original cast comes back.
500. What is it? 526,000 hours or some shit like that. That's a classic song from that.
It's really good.
Tune.
Really
Where's Jamie
good.
Andrews when you need him? Jamie could sing every word of it. I guarantee it right now. A secret, massive show tune lover.
Check it out, man. Check it out.
I just outed you, Jamie. Sorry.
Floyd giving us the exact number, 525,600. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember Steve singing this quite a bit, but I dug Rent. If it comes around, I won't be alive. I do. I remember him talking about enjoying Rent quite a bit.
Yeah, but you remember him singing it a lot.
I remember him talking about being a fan of it.
Okay,
I never got around to it, but Pulitzer Prize.
He just broke out in song like in the middle of an afternoon at a lunch and 500.
I finally caught Antlers, the Scott Cooper Wendigo film.
Yeah, how was it? I've been meaning speaking of Wendigo films.
Dude.
Not into it?
It was boring, which sucks because Scott Cooper, like his first few films, like for me, there it is again, like Crazy Horse and Out of the Furnace. Personally, I find those to be very dry, boring films. And then when he comes out with Black Mass and
Crazy Horse,
I'm like, oh, he's back. Yeah, Crazy Boar. And his last two, I'm like, oh, he's back. Like he's finally gotten a better script.
Yeah.
Sorry, this one's fucking boring. It's like 90 minutes long, and it takes an hour and 10 minutes for anyone to even like Graham Greene to come in and be like, oh yeah, it's Wendigo, for them to explain what's going on. And then like it's over after CG Wendigo comes in. Dumb.
You meant Crazy Heart. Okay, I was so fucked up for a second.
Crazy
there.
Heart.
Okay.
Crazy Heart.
I was like, they made a fucking movie about Crazy Horse? I was really excited.
No, not yet. Hollywood would never do that, Travis. Yeah, man, I was let down, and I'm waiting for like 2 years for this to come out, and it does, and it's just dead on arrival.
All right, well, I'll still catch it, but I'll have to maybe put a grain of salt in there when I do.
Yeah, put a grain in or two. The Wrong Man, Alfred Hitchcock. Like this is like one of these lost Hitchcock films that no one talks about. It comes out after Rear Window, 1956, and we got Henry Fonda. It's a classic case of mistaken identity. He may or may not be the guy that's responsible for all these holdups, and like he goes throughout the whole system, and like his life's in turmoil. How is he going to deal with this? And it made me laugh. I loved the film, but like I remember hearing that Hitchcock has like a huge fear of two things: eggs and being arrested by the police. And like when you watch this movie, like the way he films like being arraigned and detained by police and having to sit in the cell, it's like he films it like it's a fucking nightmare, probably because like it's a huge phobia of his, but really enthralling mystery that is fucking awesome even today. So, yeah, really good.
Excellent.
You should check it out, man. Of course, Book of Boba Fett, that last episode, my jaw was on the floor. I watched it 3 times. They're finally there. Like I won't spoil anything, but when it comes to mocap work and when they're doing this de-aging stuff, it's been hit or miss for me. I dug Kurt Russell in Guardians. I dug Michael Douglas in Ant-Man, but I've always been like, no, I'm looking at an effect. This isn't a person. This is an effect. Yesterday, I was convinced I was just watching a performance by an actor. I think they're almost there for photorealism. I think it's real close.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. The effects and overall, I'm kind of happy with where it's going. I had tuned out for a minute because I'm like, this is starting to get a little. I don't know.
It was getting really shitty, but we're back.
And I remember that season 2 of Mandalorian, it had a big dip. I mean, it started off real slow, and so I mean, as much as I love both of these shows, I can't pretend that they're consistent.
Right, but
really?
You know,
like consistent, like they're good, bad, up and down episodes.
Yeah, I find them kind of up and down. I mean, there are moments or entire episodes or moments of episodes where I'm like, this is fucking great, and then there's
Yeah.
Sometimes whole episodes like there was like 4 episodes in a row of Mandalorian season 2 where I'm like, I think I'm done watching this.
Yeah.
I'm not into this. And then it came back with a vengeance.
Right.
Huh,
Well, it's these set pieces. They'll have these incredible set pieces, like the train deal in episode 2 of Book of Boba Fett. Is just mind blowing. But then they go for these segmented stretches of just exposition and trying to get to one step to the next that are just like really underwritten and dry. But I don't know.
At the same time, sometimes like really leaning too hard on being episodic, where everything's kind of figured out by the end of the episode. And I'm like, give me a continued story here. I don't like it. I don't want to watch the continued adventures of blah blah and so and so.
Saturday morning cartoon, but like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, we're getting something and it's good material, so I'm happy. That's it for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from Book of Boba Fett yet, so for some reason, I feel like it seems like. First off, we have several comments. Ghost says, "Evening, everyone." Hi, Ghost.
Good
to see you. And Lore Master, Book of Boba Fett, Pog. I don't know what that means.
Pogs?
I do remember Pogs.
Those were
huge. Seemed to be, the deep fake was so good, I swore it was makeup. So.
Slammer. What were Pogs? Like, what is Slammer? What was that game?
The Slammer was the big heavy Pog, the heaviest of the Pog, and all the other Pogs were like light things. I never really played it, but I remember my friend.
Neither did I, but I remember seeing it.
And so like I remember the basic gist of it. It never seemed like it was destined for long term.
Remember all these? Fun. I used to be one of these assholes. The assholes in the area next to the lunchroom with that phone bank. We just constantly call these stupid 800 numbers, like 1-800-Flowers.
Or Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah. Yep.
Eric and I may have harassed a man who did not play Emperor Palpatine.
Confirmed. He did not. But we called him every day on our lunch break.
Sorry, sir.
I was also one of those hacky sack. It was hacky sack
circle. It was huge.
It was like all we needed in the world. God, it was so simple.
Cookies and cream Twix in a hacky sack circle. What more can you ask for?
1997, y'all.
Yeah. Cookies and cream Twix. We had those at the feast this year. Ice cream bars. Very, very good. Very, very
incredible.
All right. So thank you, Eric. Beautiful stuff. Book of Boba Fett. I wonder if Book of Boba Fett has any Twix in it. I haven't seen the show yet, so yeah.
Eagle-eyed viewers may have spotted one or two, but I have yet.
That would be the most blatant sponsorship in a movie or a TV show.
Let's put it this way: Stephen Root talking about Bib Fortuna. I mean, they give you that, so it's good in my book.
That did happen.
Really? That sounds amazing. Yeah. Okay, well,
talking about his contemporary Bib Fortuna.
It's so awesome.
That's enough to tune in. I got several to catch up on there because I still haven't seen Hawkeye. There's several Disney Plus and the MCU. Great. That's what people say, so that's also very surprising. But just because Hawkeye's lame as a character doesn't mean the show can't be good.
I wasn't surprised because I never found him lame as a character myself. I think I've rung this bell before, but to me, it's always been like Black Widow and Hawkeye have been pretty much my favorites because they're just regular people and they keep up with everyone else. So I've always really liked them.
Well, I actually really liked Hawkeye as the character itself outside of the MCU back in the older days when I used to play with him on the Avengers and the video game. And I loved Hawkeye. I would play with Hawkeye.
He was a good one to play. I liked playing him too.
Yeah, it just seems like I just had some beefs with the representation of the character and how I think Joss Whedon kind of screwed him in some of the ways that he was portrayed, which was really not Jeremy Renner's choice.
I mean, Renner was so not thrilled with those initial bursts of his performance, what he was given, that he asked to be killed off at one point, and it didn't happen.
Oh, did he really?
Early on, because he would agree with you that like some of the first like 2 movies, basically, that he was pretty underserved, like the character was underserved.
Yeah, he gets hypnotized or whatever, gets brainwashed, and then he has the line in the second one, I don't do the brainwash thing.
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy.
Hut,
sir. Good huts to you. All right, so I'm still screwing around. I definitely watched today's movie, which we'll focus on momentarily, Ravenous.
Oh, that's good. That's important that you watch the movie.
It is. I definitely am making time to watch the movies, but I'm still just watching dumb shit on YouTube when I go to bed. My time to look at a screen has not disappeared. So
tell me, not that no more airplane disaster documentaries.
I got off those. That's true. Okay. I did. I think I tapped out like every one of those. There's just no more. Airline travel is still very, very safe. So eventually there's only so many disasters. But yeah, I haven't been watching movies lately, and I got to get back into it. I need to find the groove, and I need to watch Licorice Pizza.
Here we go again. Let me guess, you're thinking about going this week with Chris Theory.
I'm telling you this. I think tomorrow's. Yeah, oh yeah, you got a little treat there.
Oh, you get yourself a little Debbie. That's what we're hearing.
Cookies and cream brownie. When you brought up the Twix, I realized I had this in the cupboard.
You're talking cookies and cream, and you stopped what you were doing. You got up and went to the cupboard and got yourself. Is that Little Debbie's or Mrs. Freshly?
Yeah, no, straight Little Debbie.
Oh wow,
that actually sounds gross. Ew.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I miss is what was that shit we were eating in Philly all the time? What's the
Drake's?
Choco Bliss.
No, the other ones they make it's like Hostess over there. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh shit! Tasty Cakes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Tasty Cakes. They're the
shout out to Tasty
Hostess.
Cakes.
Shout out to Tasty Cakes. Definitely went over to Acme and bought 10,000 Tasty Cakes. No doubt about it. And then went in my room and ate alone and went to sleep for 12 hours. It was a great routine. So.
Zinger's also really good.
Good God.
Tasty Cake binge.
Tasty Cake binge. I only laugh just like Travis did at the beginning of the episode because it's so sad you have to laugh. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, I got to get on the movies, guys. I'll do better. But I actually do see an opportunity tomorrow. I really do. I really think because I got to go pick up my brother and take him to the pharmacy and drop him off at like 10 in the morning. I don't have to pick up Leanne till 5. So I think I got a window here to go see Licorice Pizza. And I think it might happen. I really do.
I'll be honest with you. So long as you watch the movie of the week that we're doing for the podcast, I don't give a shit.
Who cares, Mike? Yeah, no one gives a shit what you're watching.
No, I'm kidding. Of course, after like 2 months, where we can finally get that movie under your belt. Lore Master chiming in with his favorite is Zingers.
Yeah, so good.
Chocolate Zingers, man.
Those are the red ones?
Right. If you can get red, yellow, or chocolate. I think they may even have orange in some, like a Guam or something. But
it's got like a straight, like the bricklayer trowel of chocolate on the top.
It's been plowed with frosting.
Yeah.
Like fine lines.
Like rototills with frosting.
Ew, wow.
I love jokes about snack cakes. That's the kind of podcast material everyone loves.
It's a snack cake podcast. Welcome in. All right, we have no emails this week. If you do want to email us, you can. cinema9pod@protonmail.com like Aaron did last week. You're more than welcome to. We appreciate your input on what you're watching, suggestions for future episodes. You never know. You might put something in our brain, be like, I actually wanted to do that movie. You never quite know for sure. Having said all that, Lore Master, chocolate zingers all the way. Okay, yep. I think we're going to move on from the tasty cake talk and the overall treats because we got some treats in this movie called Ravenous. Boy, there are some delicious.
There it
delicious. This thing really is catchy. I didn't know what Eric was talking about last week.
With the score?
Like, what are you doing? Yeah, and now I know. Now I know.
I remember seeing this movie in theaters with Eric and friend of the show, Steve Laskowski, and I think friend of the show, Chad Gibbons, was there as well. And the movie ended, and I stood up, and I believe I announced, like, in the theater, 2 things, one of which was bonkers, and one of which was right. The bonkers thing was that I stood up and said, Jeffrey Jones is going to get an Academy Award for this. Sex Pest. Sex Pest Jeffrey Jones is going to get an Academy Award. I must have been high.
It was
the other claim is that Damon Albarn and Michael Nyman would get an Academy Award for this, which honestly they should have been at least fucking nominated. The score for this is outstanding. Wow.
I agree.
Jeffrey Jones, I was up on that one. Sorry. I mean, he's great. He is good.
Amazing.
You have to kill.
Yeah. He was.
Walnut Boy.
Incredible.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy. It's not. It actually makes sense. Context is key, of course.
Hollywood was not lined up to support him.
From Steve.
Yeah, that's
speaking of Steve, he chimes in with, speaking of treats, watching this with Travis was a real treat. Likewise, buddy. I never remember, we do this every episode. Very rarely do I remember the experience of watching the movie. But because I saw it with 3 of my best friends, I do recall it. And plus it was a memorable movie. I mean,
right. Yeah. So we're going to hear that story. We're doing Ravenous. It's time. Does it hold up or not? 1999. Starring Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, Jeffrey Jones, and a host of others, of course, because there's a full cast. And this movie took place in a time period that is called historic, so it's a historical set piece technically. Because it's
could you slow down and spell that? 1847.
Let's see. But yeah, so Ravenous. This was Eric's choice, a fine choice. We already talked last week on the show about how this was a regular viewing. It was always on at the Dump, which was a house that me and Travis and 5 other guys at least lived at together back in 0203 in at least on one floor. In Ypsilanti back in the day, and Ravenous and Rounders, and then there might be another one. But those are the 2 that's Deconstructing Harry. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Boy, there's a lot of cancellations going on with these films here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Geez. But so that's cool. So you can remember your original story. Every episode, we take ourselves back in time to our original viewing. So tell us more, Travis.
Well, so, I kind of already touched on it. Then I enjoyed the movie so much that I remember, I bought the score. I actually kept track. This is back in the day. I had to buy the CD of the score, and I believe I went and bought it the day it actually was released. I went really quickly. I was really on the score, and I listened to the fuck out of it, all the time, just while I was writing or whatever. And then I bought the DVD as soon as because I was working at Blockbuster with these guys that we just mentioned at the time. So I bought the DVD pretty much as soon as I could. And when I moved into the Dump with you all, I brought the DVD with me, and this became one that most of us that lived there just ad nauseum, just watched it ad nauseum, just put it on repeat, basically. That was a function on the DVD player. You could make it do that. So we would just do that.
We did.
Yeah.
Except me, which was, and I thought a lot about this, Travis, today. I had I really, truly did just had a flat out, I was a natural born online troll in real life. Where I'm just being contrarian just to be contrarian. I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch this. Everyone else is watching it. I wouldn't say it out loud like that.
No, we knew, though. We knew you.
Oh, it's obvious. Yeah, it's obvious. It's not a secret whatsoever.
Oh, you guys all love this thing? It must suck. All my closest and best friends really love this thing. I'm sure their opinion is terrible.
Such a stupid, God, immaturity, folks. It can really set you back, folks. Let me tell you something. But yeah, so I definitely walked by this movie while you guys were having fun watching it at the Dump too many times.
And there was other movies that we watched on repeat that you did enjoy, but not this one. You go back to the basement and do whatever you did down there.
Maybe I heard the music and I'm like, this sounds like a scary movie. I'm out of here.
That may have been it. You are turned off by genre. This is
even back then. Yeah, this goes back forever. So
yeah. And this is genreific in a lot of ways. It's a horror comedy period piece. It's rare.
Black comedy. Yeah.
Eric,
so is that the tale? Oh, that's the tale? Great. Okay.
Yeah, that's the tale. Eric, you remember you were there. We just kind of recounted it. But
I remember we were anticipating it, but we were worried that no one would be playing it. Did we not have to go all the way out to the famed Star Southfield to watch this thing?
I believe we had to go out of our way. Yeah.
It was a bit of a drive. The Star Southfield, which was a game changer because they had stadium seating in 1999. It was unreal.
Yeah, there was so much.
And they had enough theaters that they actually would play art stuff, independent stuff.
That's right. Yeah. And we went. I remember we went in the morning. The first showing, and I remember being hungover from a night of poker at Kabowski's, and the only thing I remember about this viewing is being hungover and my brain hemorrhaging in pain thanks to this soundtrack in the background. So I couldn't enjoy it at first. Play it again, Mike. Picture this when you have a migraine headache and you're completely dehydrated for 90 minutes.
Oh, man.
You loved it.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
So I walked out of the theater in tremendous amount of pain and annoyance. So it took a few viewings for me to fully appreciate it. But
before you flip-flop?
Before I flip-flop as usual. But this is March of 99, man. This is a few weeks before The Matrix, and before every fucking incredible movie ever made was released in this year.
Oh, yeah. This is March?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I thought Kabowski's didn't start till later in the year. Boy. Okay. Well, I don't want to split hairs here. I remember when I moved to my dad's after we moved out of the Rot House at the end of the summer, then Kabowski's was the place to go. But that doesn't mean that didn't exist already prior to that. So
you went there after it stopped being cool, though. I'm original.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Skowski lived there. He could probably tell us. At any rate, yeah, I Never saw this movie officially, although I've seen the movie on a TV, a very shitty TV, I might add.
And 20 years ago.
At least, yeah. 20 years ago at the dump on a tube television with no HD, not even a whiff of HD, not even an HDMI input. There would be nothing there whatsoever like that. And the guys, Luke, our friend in particular, Luke loved this movie. He always talked about this. This is one of his favorite films. In fact, I'm sure he's going to check this episode out because
Hi, Luke.
he's going to want to suck. He's ravenous about Ravenous, right? He's going to suck it all up. He's a madman. I don't know the score. So did you guys look up the score on IMDb?
I did not look up the score. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess this is a cult classic kind of film. I think that, I mean, this is one, as I mentioned last episode, that I wouldn't have chosen because I've not seen it probably in 10 years, but I had little doubt in my mind how I felt about it, and I think that most people would feel if you liked it a lot, right? So I'm gonna say in the 7s, but at the same time, enough people will be turned off by it for how gory and different it is. I'm gonna say 7.1.
Well, Christ, I did accidentally see the thermometer on this one, and it's 49%.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna say that has a bit of an impact on this IMDb score. I'm gonna say 6.8.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ignore what you just said, which just tried to influence my score decision, which I didn't know. I was originally going to say that it was like a 7.6. I really thought it'd be that high.
Okay.
Wow.
That people would love it who did watch it.
Yeah.
So, and that's not true. It's a 7.
It's a 7. Okay, I was close.
Okay.
I was close.
Sure. Rock solid 7, though. That's a solid, excellent, not an elite Hall of Fame film, but an excellent film.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good score for treasured among fans of it, but not exactly a commonplace film that everyone's seen.
I think that's fair. And sometimes people just don't know what the hell they're talking about, so who knows? But as Eric mentioned, 49% from the critics. Ouch.
Yikes.
That really surprises me. Though, I mean, this isn't my favorite movie of all time, but 49% from the critics.
I remember at the time being shocked by because I mean, like we saw it, I think like when it came out, like it may have even been like a sneak peek or something. Like we saw it really, really early. And I remember like we knew almost nothing about it. We knew it was we knew that it was a cannibal movie that had Guy Pearce in it. I think that was all we knew.
All we needed to know.
And God, is that true? Is that all we knew? Were we a Guy Pearce fan already at that point? I don't know. We didn't know much. That's
he just done LA Confidential, so we love that.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. That probably was what did it. So, because I remember being like, oh, like as it started, I remember being like, oh, it takes place in the past. I didn't know that it was going to be like a period piece. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Critics were not
Confidential
kind,
came out in 97,
yeah.
and that was like, wow.
That's where I was going with that.
Eviscerated the film.
I can't believe the critics are so pissed. We'll find out what they have to say, but this
I'm really
shocked by this 49%. Man,
this is prime Destin territory, 99, right? Should have Destin chiming in.
Let's try a different one. How about Renee Rodriguez from the Baltimore Sun?
Absolutely.
Renee says, it's too muddled to be considered a success, but the fact that such an uncompromisingly mean, loopy film can still be made within the studio system will be reason enough for some people, and you know who you are, to celebrate. Do we know who we are?
I guess so. People like me that thought I just called it independent film, but she's right. It is a studio movie.
How am I not myself?
How am I not myself? Another independent spirit for a studio film in that one too.
So
that's
$12 million budget. So this is the late 90s when they're greenlighting like $10 to $20 million movies, and that you get these bonkers plots that you're not going to see studios like streaming will make them. But back in the 90s, they would just make these really odd. They take a chance on these odd movies, and for $12 million, they took a chance. Marketing, the marketing. I have to. Did you happen to watch the preview, like the trailer, like in anticipation of the episode?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. Like the studio had no clue what to do with this product. So you got to watch the trailer because there's this like, it's not even music from the film. It's just like stupid, like romantic comedy, like dumb goof music. And literally this is what the narrator said. This is literally what the narrator says. One man must choose between having dinner and being dinner. They show Guy Pearce eating a steak. Having dinner. He's got to choose between having dinner. Like it's like a dinner comedy.
Dude, it gets worse. it actually gets worse because as you were talking, I do remember the preview. Actually, they didn't use the music from Albarn and Nyman. They used fucking Rob Zombie.
So, yeah,
Rob Zombie. So like you're watching the preview and like the dun 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 dun. I'm like, oh my god, it looked like trash. I mean, yeah, this movie didn't. The little bit of marketing that they did for it was not representative or good.
I'm sending you to California, Fort Spencer.
Listen to this.
4 missing soldiers, Captain, and no bodies. We need a supportable explanation.
Captain John Boyd is out to solve a mystery.
No one just hands down to Fort Spencer. We come for a reason.
Yours being?
Well,
But he is about to discover
we have a great sense of camaraderie here at Fort Spencer.
something he never imagined.
Winged eagle.
It's an old Indian myth from the north.
Man eats the flesh of another. He absorbs the other man's strength.
Now, one man must choose
We need others.
between having dinner
Not me.
and being
Having dinner.
Good gracious.
That's so annoying.
Stew a la Major Knox.
Guy Pearce,
So cringy.
Robert Carlyle,
He was tough, but then a good soldier ought to be.
Jeffrey Jones,
We want to bring you into the fold.
David Arquette,
Oh, that's a spoiler.
There's no guilt. I gotta eat. It's tough making friends.
Man, I'm glad I didn't see this preview before I saw the movie.
We wouldn't have gone.
To eat.
Turn this shit off.
Turn it off.
That was really
Oh man.
If I had seen this preview, I probably still would have seen the movie, but I don't know that would have been like rushing to theaters.
Oh, man.
Because that, I mean, for one, a ton of spoilers. Exactly why I hate previews, and two, that was nauseating.
Having dinner.
That was
no
pure
choice.
gold, though, man. That was
was hilarious.
hilarious. That was tear-inducing comedy to me because that is so bad. That is.
you imagine,
That's
like-
when bad could be so funny.
Can you imagine the people
Wow.
that made that preview being like, well, we've got this Mexican-American war film, like this Manifest Destiny thing with vampires or something? Like, how are we, it's a comedy? How are we gonna fucking, what? Major Knox has a problem.
Yeah. That's so vivid.
Or
Wow. Okay.
Dang.
Okay. That. Thanks for
Goofy
that,
new
Eric. That
narration.
was
Hilarious.
that was wonderful. Okay, that
All
was
the wrong
wonderful.
ways.
Anyways, back to the critics. Roger Ebert said, all right. Of course, a vampire is simply a cannibal with good table manners, and Ravenous is a darkly atmospheric film about an epidemic of flesh eating and the fearsome power that it brings. Okay, well, that's
Sure. Yeah.
that tongue in cheek. That's
Very
interesting.
factual, I guess. Concerning the
Yeah,
plot.
very factual. Very factual. Todd McCarthy of Variety says Ravenous is a largely unappetizing stew. By the way, all these are just filled with endless
bet.
puns about
Oh, yeah.
an unappetizing stew enlivened at times by the struggle of its characters to be or not to be cannibals.
Yeah,
That's the plot.
Shakespeare, Travis. We know you love Shakespeare.
that is the
I
plot.
disagree with the comment about the stew because I'm sorry. Stew a la Major Knox looks good to me every time I watch it. It looks good.
I eat beef stew all the time. I love beef stew. It looks just like that.
Man. Okay. So anyway, so the critics man, they just did not like this movie overall, which again surprises me. Very much surprising. Great show so far. Thanks, Lore
Thank you,
Master.
Lore
That's very
Master.
kind of you. Hopefully you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is where you can watch these in live or anytime you want. If you can't sleep and you're thinking about Ravenous at 4 a.m., you can pop this on and watch this right now. So that's exciting. Here's some things that I thought about, guys. I absolutely thought of The Revenant when I thought of this movie, and not just because there's V's in the titles, but when he jumps off the cliff, I totally thought The Revenant stole it from this movie entirely. It was so obviously like, wow, well, you clearly have seen Ravenous. I know it's possible for people to jump off cliffs, but he falls down on the tree. He doesn't fall down in the exact manner.
Well,
both movies.
So the Revenant's based on Hugh Glass, which is that's a real person with a real story, and that, as I recall, that was part of his story, that he'd fallen off a cliff or whatever, and that's why his fellow men like left him. So
just something I thought of.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I mean, certainly the depiction is similar, but there's only so many ways to show someone jump off a snowy cliff, I guess.
Yeah, I never do. You guys take notes for these movies, and I never do that. So I decided for the first time ever to jot down a few things. So I'm proud of myself, and I want to give you guys full credit for really taking the job seriously. So kudos to Travis and Eric for taking notes. I also thought the ending, final last act, where the general's coming back, and it's good. Hey, is Boyd gonna become a cannibal forever? Find out next time.
Yeah.
I thought of The Devil's Advocate so much. It was like this same last 10-minute, hey, we got to sell this guy on being the next thing here. It really made me think of that same premise of The Devil's Advocate, which I just thought was interesting as well. Al Pacino selling Keanu Reeves, like, hey, take your place here. And then in this movie, Robert Carlyle and Jeffrey Jones, to a certain extent, are trying to sell Boyd on becoming a cannibal pal.
A cannibal.
Cannibal. That's a cool part about it. It's this, I believe it's Mephistopheles and Faustian relationship we got going on here. And it makes it so much more interesting that they're looking for a companion. I mean, yeah, it does remind me of both Interview with the Vampire and Lost Boys. They're not just trying to kill Boyd. They literally want a companion to join them on this new life. And that's so much more interesting than just this hack and slash, leave the ring and hit each other with steel chairs, blood and guts shit you got going on. So that's a huge element.
And this is so much more grounded, right? For one, it's the Donner Party. I mean, that's what we're talking about. The Donner Party was close to 100 people. This is 6 or whatever, but this is very clearly inspired by the Donner Party in many different ways. And then you mash that up with, it's on the OG way. The Algonquins are on the other side of the continent, but the Wendigo myth comes from there. So you mash that up with the Wendigo myth and pepper it in with some vampirism, and you've got yourself a nice, unique film here. That's actually one of the reviewers that you mentioned called it muddled. I'm like, to me, this is not muddled at all. I find it an incredibly concise film. This happens, then this happens, then this happens, and this happens, and it's over.
Yeah.
It's really, I think I always find it very much, I'm always like, oh shit, it's already almost over, because it kind of gets ahead of me. And real quick too, while I'm kind of addressing some of the historical points that comes out of it, I checked, I could only find, I'm sure there's others, but I could only find one other film, some Tom Berenger movie I'd never heard of, that's based even remotely around the Mexican-American War. I mean, the Mexican-American War is such an integral and interesting part of American history. This whole time period, why is there not a ton of movies about this? And to take the Donner Party and take the Mexican-American War and jam them up the way that they do. I mean, for me, that's just oh yeah, that's Travis bait.
That's a good point. Also, the director, Milcho Manchevsky, was fired 2 weeks into production of this film and replaced by Antonia Bird.
Yeah, he wasn't playing ball. He wasn't playing ball with Laura Ziskin, who I guess ran the studio with an iron fist and just completely wanted to turn it into probably what we were seeing in that trailer, which is something more just completely fun and zany. I think she wanted to strip a lot of the independent nature out of the film, and because she brought in, what she did was she dismissed Mashevsky and she literally brought Raja Gosnell to the set. And Raja Gosnell is the director of Home Alone 3, and he's Columbus's editor. And she's like, here's our new director. We got rid of that other guy. He wasn't playing ball. And the cast mutinized. They were like, we're out. We don't want to.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, who the fuck is Raja Gosnell? Home Alone 3 was terrible. So they were going to walk until Robert Carlyle brought in Antonia Bird, who he worked with Pearce.
On Faces. Oh, yeah, on Faces too. Yeah.
Yeah. Both movies. That's fascinating. Okay.
And then she had worked also on Face with Damon Albarn. That was his first chance in acting. So she was able to wrangle him in for that. And Michael Nyman, we've talked about him before while we're back on the score. He also did Gattaca, really talented pianist. Just and what a unique score. And so yeah, what a blessing that that Carlyle was able to pull her in on this, because this is, I mean, she didn't do a ton of stuff, unfortunately in her lifetime, but she did she did a few. She did like 6 movies, and I saw Face, and that is good. But this is definitely, from what I can tell, the biggest, the one that she's probably most known for.
Yeah, you also got Upham shows up. I'm like, oh, it's Upham. There he is, Jeremy
Colonel
Davies.
Upham.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
good to see you.
An old
Coming off
Bushy.
of Saving Private Ryan.
Oh,
Neil McDonough is a bizarre human being to me.
He is.
Is he
very
real? Like, do we really
strange.
think he's an actual human? His eyes and that bleach blonde hair, and he's always ripped. And
Startling.
he seems like an android. I know I see him in Minority Report as well, so maybe that's
Yeah.
feeding into some weird sci-fi thing in my brain. But man, he is a fascinating human being.
I know that shortly after this movie, he went and left Hollywood and went and sold cars for a while.
He went back to Venus and came back for M. Bison in the Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li.
Was he M. Bison? Oh
Yeah,
man,
he's M. Bison.
that sounds. I don't like that casting at all. Okay, that doesn't matter.
He's fantastic.
And David Arquette.
David
When I
Arquette.
saw that,
Oh, boy.
I couldn't believe it. Like, wait, these guys love Ravenous, okay? They love it. They grew up on it, and they love a movie that has David Arquette getting this credit. I'm like, what?
Well,
this can't be
For one,
real.
David Arquette, for what it's worth, at the time was not the David Arquette that we have now necessarily. And which I'm not against David Arquette, and I know that you guys aren't particularly either. He's not. He's just maybe not.
We
the
watched
most-
that documentary last year.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but he does have good moments in him. And sometimes he's the right person for the role, such as Hamlet too. Right, like sometimes he's just the ideal
Perfect.
person for the role, and I think he's perfect in this role. And it's like he doesn't. He's
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that.
he's good at it. And also, a quick shout out to Dream with the Fishes. I mean, that was around a little bit before that, a while before that, but he had established himself as a serious, good dramatic actor, and then was popping with Scream. So it kind of made sense to give him that Anne billing.
Yeah, that's what surprised me. He's like, yeah, he ended up fitting greatly. So I give him full credit for that. Good job, David Arquette. Which is, this is why we watch these movies and do this show. You get surprised, and it's I like being surprised in a good way too. And going back to the Mexican American War part, Travis, that you mentioned, this movie also, all the categories we put it into earlier on with the black comedy and horror or whatever else we said it was, historical drama.
Yeah.
It is also a meditation on PTSD in a time that would never, ever, ever even be discussed. I mean, he gets constantly chastised by everyone after he survives this horrific ordeal. And forget the cannibalism. The most horrific parts of this movie are the war scenes and him being piled up in that body cart, which that's intense shit.
Awesome.
And it's really, really just put in there so well, so well done in the fact that it wouldn't be harped on because nobody would know what the fuck PTSD was back then. So that's another thing that gives this movie bonus points to me.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about this movie is the gore. I think it's handled really, really well. There's so much gore in this movie that it starts to become invisible. Like it's just one of the goriest fucking movies I can think of. By the time you get to Knox's headless, armless body at the end, you don't even give a shit anymore. But early on, when like that scene with him in the cart and he's having the flashbacks while everyone's eating the bloodiest steaks in world history.
They're all eating like psychos. It's hilarious.
Right. And then he turns he can't handle it and he turns the corner to throw up and they freeze frame there to bring in this zany, like country kind of old timey music and give you the Ravenous font. And you're like, this is the fucking movie we're in for now. And we talk about setting the tone. Hey, this is going to be a gory, weird movie.
Yeah.
Strap in.
Thank God they do that so early. I mean, Christ, they do it earlier than that. They give you this profound Nietzschean quote and then this stupid eat me quote with like a flat noise when it comes on the screen. So you know what you're getting into. But to your point, Mike, like one of my favorite things about this film is the performance by Guy Pearce. And I think a lot of people kind of misinterpreted what he's doing in this as kind of just being the lead who's just wandering around the entire time, but it's not that at all, man. Like he does two things. Yes, he is shell-shocked from his experience in the war, but he's also kind of like a junkie for human blood. So he's going through withdrawal the entire time, and he's reticent and he's aware of his own cowardice, and he freely admits it. He's not this brazen hero who's denying it and lying to himself. He freely is scared He's conflicted, and he thinks he's a coward and probably doesn't even deserve to live. Hence, we get that ending.
Well, he might very well be a coward, but you get that moment with Neil McDonough's character, Reich, where he's like, you're afraid of the sight of blood, and he's not afraid of the sight of blood. He's like, he's hungry,
tantalized,
right? Yeah, he's tantalized, and that's bothersome to him. And then on top of that, wait, I'm sorry, we got
here.
My favorite quote from Aaron Kruger. My favorite quote is Ives holding up a knife and saying with disdain and excitement, "Run." And then that zany music again comes in.
There you go, Mike.
Great scene.
Yeah, you're right though, man. Like it's all over his face, no pun intended. Just his taste for craven blood and hunting is just out of reach, and he's trying to deny it.
And the Algonquin myth of Wendigo, in that myth, you're more susceptible to becoming the Wendigo if you have like these moral failings, such as greed or selfishness or cowardice. So it makes sense that Boyd and remember, like Ives says, like he's mentally. I don't want to say weak necessarily, but he's weak in a lot of different ways. When he's in a vulnerable point in his life,
he's disease stricken. Yeah,
he's disease stricken and he's suicidal when he eats the first eats the flesh, and also Jeffrey Jones's character Hart. I mean, he's not exactly a strong man, He seems to have risen through the ranks. Yeah, he seems to have risen through the ranks more for his affability than for any sort of courage or anything.
The affable colonel tonight, and all new the affable colonel. Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely true. And yes, Jeffrey Jones unfortunately has a checkered past of disappointing charges and convictions, which we you can Google it if you want, but I don't recommend it. But he is excellent in this movie, and his performance and that character. As a first-time viewer, again, I feel like I'm always the first-time viewer. I had no idea that he would show up again. That was like, oh, what? Okay, it made sense after he did show up, but I was really not expecting him. Although they might have given it away to me a tad with some of the camera shots of the sword that they were doing in the moments leading up to, because I know Knox is going to get killed. That's why Boyd keeps calling out Knox, Knox, Knox.
And the music really builds there.
Yeah.
And you know that like there's something else coming.
Yep. And there he was.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like his private life aside, he's paid his dues for it, and he may or may not be a good person in his heart. We don't know. He gives the best performance in the film for me. He has one of the more layered characters because he's struggling with like the nobility of his position, and this is like a huge guy who's not up to a 3-day long journey. Right thing, and he's got this inner conflict, and that's what I dig about the Wendigo. And your point, Travis, like I think because also one of the things that Wendigo can do is curse you. And I believe he just may be cursed by it like laterally from the other people, because he's not prepared to continue on in this life, which is interesting.
Yeah. And I also find Boyd also does have moral fortitude ultimately, because he Ives tells him it's just acquiesce. It's so easy, just give in, and he won't. Because it's the wrong thing to do, and it actually takes him a long time to eat Reich, even though he knows by that point what it could do for him and save his life, and he still holds off on doing it. So actually, while he does kind of have like he's just not a killer, is really what it comes down to. He's not someone that wants to kill people.
Right. He's not a murderer.
Right.
And he is willing to sacrifice his own life in the end. And, the whole bit laid out by Martha, is that her name?
Yeah, Martha.
Saying that you're going to, Wendigo just takes and takes. And to stop Wendigo, you have to give, which is, I dig that. I like that tale.
Yeah.
That's a nice little storytelling twist. And I also think about what he said when Eves and, well, he's Eves now. He's Calhoun and he's Eves. Ives. I like Eves.
That's wrong.
Is that EVE? Eves. Ives is telling Mr. Boyd that, yes, morality, the last bastion of a coward.
Yeah.
And I love that line. That's a great fucking
Beautiful
line. I never thought about it like that, and it hit me hard. It really did. And that's a good movie right there. That's a movie that's onto something, let alone all the silly stuff that might be happening in the jokes and all that. This is a thought-provoking film, too. And it's also I said it's about PTSD, a meditation on that. It's also a fucking drug addicts movie. It's a junkie's glory. Like you already hinted at the junkie who needs the blood, Eric. This is. I just kept thinking about how in that scene again, this is when they're outside after Eves comes back and takes over the Fort Spencer. Is that
Fort Spencer? Yeah.
Shit, did I say Eves again? That's hilarious. And they're back, so they're out there talking at night, and this is the only part of the movie that bothered me was the games that Ives is playing when he comes back, and of course the bullet wound's gone and he's healed up. But then you learn why that is after the fact. So then I post, I guess later on take that back. Retroactively say, all right, fuck it, who cares? You're right. Yeah. That's not important. But he's talking about you can smell the blood. He cuts him. Boyd cuts Ives with a knife, and you can smell his blood right there. You can smell it, and you know what it'll do for you. Right. But he still resists, like you said. And that is a guy he wants it. He's got to have it, and he's addicted to it because it seems to be very addictive.
And it's not just him, right? It's also Jeffrey Jones's character Hart and John Spencer's character General Schlosser.
That's Stu. Going back to the stew.
Right. Him. Right. So when you see him taste the stew at the end, you're like, fuck. Like he's in this world, like one sip, one taste of humankind, and you are addicted to it.
Yep. Yeah, it's better than any opioid on planet Earth, apparently. So
just mainline that man flesh.
Yeah, and that's what's going on here too. This is a junkie. It's fascinating. The facets of this film, you wouldn't expect it. I really did not expect it to have so many angles, and it really does.
Yeah, it's very layered, and one of the layers that jumped out to me this time, to get back to the historical significance of it, maybe because I know a lot more now than I did maybe last time I watched it. But this movie takes place in 1847. That is, I think, the year after either Casno or O'Sullivan published the original article that had the phrase "manifest destiny" in it. So him using that phrase "manifest destiny" is like super. It'd be like using the hot buzz phrase of the time frame and kind of like referring to that. And then he's talking about the gold rush, and he's talking about coming statehood and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, this is just so juicy. Part of me wishes that Boyd would just join up and we could have sequels of them like preying on all these people, these pioneers coming through that in gold, gold panners and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Going back to one thing that you talk about when Ives or Calhoun comes back and reveals the shoulder, another one of my favorite things about the Wendigo is its place in like fear-based folklore. From what I understand, it's also kind of used as something to precede like the understanding of like the mentally ill people, to kind of give an excuse, because before modern medicine, they didn't know what could be causing like hysterics, so they would blame it on a creature, or they would just try to prevent like foolish people from just wandering into the wilderness and dying. So
or both, yeah.
Or both. So there is kind of an opportunity to question like these supernatural elements. So if it's not shown to you, and we could question, well, are these guys going crazy? Is this like a stir crazy situation? Are they going nuts and they think they have superpowers because of the isolation and all that? But it does kind of confirm it when you have a vanishing wound. It's just another thing.
Yeah, I always complain about characters straying away from their actual character or who they would be. It's always a bugaboo for me. And in this film, characters stay true to themselves. That's another excellent point of emphasis for this film.
Yeah,
really?
and that to me is why Hart, the character, it's not just Jeffrey Jones's performance, it's Hart's arc, where you see him like go from having to use the book to slam the walnuts and then crushing them in the palm of his hand.
Awesome.
And he feels that power, and he's trying to like, you have to kill him. He's getting all worked up about it, but then he very quickly and easily deflates, right? Like pretty much like he asks him, can he be trusted? And Boyd's like, no. And then like Boyd tells him, I'm going to kill him. He's like, and that's when he releases him. And it's like, it's very much like he did not have this. He did not make a choice in this. He was pulled into this. The desire to live is going to obviously kind of take hold of you, and you're going to adapt to the circumstances. But ultimately, he too his character is a good person and would rather die than live like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's also a part of me that wishes maybe Boyd does eat Carlyle. I'm thinking,
Calhoun,
I'm mixing all. You got me in the head with his Ives thing. I'm so screwed up now. I'm going to tell you this. I kind of wish he did eat him, and then couldn't he just live his life though? He's like, okay, I just want to live now. I'm a good person. I never wanted to hurt anybody. I'm just going to have some of them. Is he allowed to? I don't even know the rules too.
No,
Like,
no. There's like a burning, intense desire for that. He's in withdrawal. That's why he's all pale and shitty looking. Like, and that's why he's like looking at the fire and like his brain is, and why he's watching David Arquette's character and like fantasizing about murdering him.
It's like Interview with the Vampire.
Right. If he lives, he'll kill. If he were to eat Calhoun, if he were to walk away from that situation, he would kill, and he would. Like, you know, he's a fucking vampire now.
It can't be cured. There's no way out.
Right. You have to give your life. You have to give everything.
Okay, that's true.
Oh, man.
Also,
awesome.
This movie looks gorgeous. Wherever they find these spots, these are places in the United States, we can apparently visit and see with our own eyes. I mean, it's right there.
This is Slovakian mountains, my friend. This is the Czech Republic, doubling for the
shit. Really?
Yeah.
Well, we could still see with our own eyes.
We could go there if we wanted to, technically.
Yes.
Go there.
Is that because... Well, that's interesting. Okay, I wonder if because the original director was Yugoslavian, maybe there was a connection to the Eastern Europe over there. I wonder who started the original creation of this project too. Like, was it the
Tim
idea?
Griffin was the writer? Yeah, went on to do one of the co-writers of Ocean's 11.
Yeah,
some other big stuff. This was his big breakthrough film, though. This was his first one to get made.
Well, either way, it's those shots of Fort Spencer and the mountains and even them going through the woods and everything. They found the cave, the perfect cave for everything. Whoever was the line producer on this movie, good for you. You found some great locations.
And the set design is all fantastic. I mean, the production design, like the whole little Fort Spencer itself with all of those little burning little trash fires and stuff everywhere. And it all feels so lived in and rusty and like you're gonna get tetanus just walking through there. The chickens are running around wild and shit. It all feels very authentic. And that's one of the things. I mean, one of the many things I think to love about this movie is there's authenticity in the performances, there's authenticity in the sets, and then there's authenticity in the filming. I didn't think to check the cinematographer here, but Antonia Bird and her cinematographer do a really fine job. I mean, watching this, on the HD version, like it really still looks really, really good. It's understated. It's not too vibrant, but it's not too dull. It's like this really perfect tone. I don't know how quite to explain this aspect of it, but I just really love the way it looks.
Quick note, Alejandro Iñárritu, you don't have to put your entire cast and crew in mortal danger to get shots of the beautiful, rugged, mountainous wilderness. But most of that snow, to this point even, is actually a bunch of fucking down pillows torn up because there was no snow in the Czech Republic and during this winter where they shot it.
Oh shit! It looks great. I never would have guessed.
Awesome. Yep.
I did notice at one point that there's like a lot more snow by the cave and then not much by Fort Spencer itself, but I just assumed the cave was at a higher altitude.
The cinematographer was Anthony B. Richmond, who has had a very busy career, maybe not a legendary career.
Known for?
He's just done a bunch of movies that you wouldn't think of, like Good Luck Chuck, as the cinematographer. Oh my God! He was the Just Friends. He was the director of photography on Just Friends.
Just Friends. Wow. He shot Fat Face.
How about that?
Check that episode out, guys. We did that one very recently.
Legally Blonde, The Sweetest Thing, Men of Honor.
Well, you know. It's funny you mentioned that because Antonia Bird before, like she did that Mad Love with fucking
Chris O'Donnell.
What do you got, Mike? You're very excited.
I'm sorry, he did. It says this right here. He is the fucking director of photography, the cinematographer on Full Body Massage.
Damn.
Is this how Doug does it?
Yep.
Wow.
That's how Doug shot it.
All right. My night's made. I don't care what happens out. That is mind blowing.
Wow. I love that movie's like serious cinema.
He took it. Wow. I'm sorry.
Well, he came a long way because Full Body Massage is like, what, 8 years before this, and it's shot.
No, it's 95. It's 95.
Oh, well, there you go. 4 years later.
It's a TV movie, though.
Awful cinematography.
Yeah, he was just showing up for work probably, making that paycheck.
Yeah.
No one's gonna watch this trash. No one's gonna make jokes about this for 30 years of their life.
Damn, man. But yeah, I did want to talk about. I didn't record the name, but like some of the best sound like in a movie. I did write down like I don't know if you know this, but I've got something called misophonia, which is like an extreme hatred of the sound of people eating. So like this opening sequence with
yeah.
the plates and the knives, like it sounds like the fucking like Mogwais eating like the chicken. It's like horrible, but it's perfect. It brings you there. And like the cliff dive with all the every single branch you hear snapping and the tumbling, it's fucking awesome.
You're right. And then the final battle at the end, like that. That final battle between Boyd and Ives is almost teetering on a little bit absurd and almost funny in a way they wouldn't have wanted. But the direction and the sound design and kind of the sprawling nature of it, how it goes from place to place, save it. If it had just been the two of them duking it out and stabbing each other and making weird faces and drooling on one another in the middle of the whole lot, that would not have worked. It nearly was that. Admittedly.
Well, what do you guys? So, isn't there a sequel to this movie though, or a continuation with the general? I mean, the general, he's going to become that now, right? He's eating the stew.
Well, I mean, I don't know that the world was ready for the horror film starring John Spencer. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, but do you think he is going to be? Can you eat that stew and just be like, well, that was good, but I didn't know I was eating human meat. So,
well, my expectation then would be that without Boyd to guide him so that he knew what it was. Unless, well, actually, he'd been told about when to go. One of the problems I do have with this movie is like, why the fuck doesn't Boyd just tell them that Ives or that Calhoun killed everyone? Why does he got to tell them about the whole Wendigo thing? He must know no one's going to believe him. But with the general knowing that, he might actually figure out later on, like, I've got this craving, it won't go away, and then he might kind of figure it out, and he might eat meat for that reason. But otherwise, I think that he wouldn't know what he was craving.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget, all you really need is human blood. I mean, Boyd gets to taste just because of his stacked up body ordeal.
Yeah.
Human meat. Yes. So John Spencer, this was his final film, by the way. He passed away a few years later. So good run, John. Hair was, I couldn't believe you could, was that a wig? Because is that natural? His hair would have been.
I don't know, but his mustache was great. Yeah, he was
the hell of a mustache. Yeah,
he was bald. He was bald.
He was. Yeah, I mean, I saw him in The Negotiator a year before.
West Wing. He was bald on West Wing. Yeah,
don't bullshit me, Spencer. All right, well, there it is. This is called Ravenous, so we talked about it in great detail. What an interesting film, to say the least. Any last calls before we shut it down, boys?
Another shout out to the supporting cast. We didn't really talk about Jeremy Davies much or some of these other people. A little bit, but I really, every time I watch this movie, I'm bummed when everybody starts dying at once. George gets killed. That whole sequence, the way that Robert Carlyle plays it, how he's like he's got PTSD and he starts digging and he acts so crazy that no one's going to pay attention to him. So when he starts digging, everyone thinks he's just off his rocker. But he's
spooked, as they say. He's spooked.
But it's such a wild scene in terms of tone. I can't think of a movie that is so quickly reversing in tone than that whole sequence. So the way it goes from this ominous, intense dread, the slow push-pull into the cave, and you're seeing Calhoun / Ives doing this finger nonsense, and Jeremy Davies is screaming, and then as Aaron mentioned, then George is or everyone's dead except for Jeremy Davies' character, and he tells him to run, and then this happy music comes in, and then they slow down as things slow down as Boyd and Reich show up, and it gets serious again. It's so all over the place, and yet, so I can see where some people might call it muddled, but to me, it's like really artfully weaving in terms of how it's making the viewer feel.
It's so true, and one of the more unbelievable things about, especially the score, is Nyman and Damon Albarn. They didn't collaborate. One did their thing, and then the other did their thing, and that score was just kind of thrown together. Like, they did not do this together. Yeah, they did their thing separately. That's why you get like that beautiful music with when Boyd's spending night after night after night trapped in that.
That's Nyman.
That's Nyman, and then the wacky shit is Albarn. But
and then the really memorable main stuff. Ding, 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 ding. That's Nyman. That's Nyman. That's Nyman. Wow, that's cool. Good to know, Eric.
But bizarre. I mean, like,
you know a lot about this movie.
I really don't get this muddled comment, because the plot is actually pretty thin. Group of cannibals, they got to be dealt with. In the last hour is just like Boyd, sitting around waiting for his turn to do what he has to do. but it all works, man.
I'll call it concise.
Sure.
It's a concise plot. There's not a lot of frills here, but there's so much being thrown at us at the same time that you wouldn't want to go too far afield. I mean, and also with all the comedy is handled with such a deft touch that you will be like I don't laugh out loud much at this movie, except for I always laugh out loud at like when Hart sits down, they're all getting ready to eat. He's like, well, isn't this civilized? And then Boyd like pukes up some blood or whatever. That part does always make me laugh. But the movie itself, it's not like a laugh out loud funny kind of movie, but it's so like tongue in cheek, and it keeps you constantly amused the whole time, even though you're not fine.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's hard to make friends with cannibals.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like, not only is it not like really funny, it's also like not really scary.
Yeah.
So the blend works because you don't have a push and pull, a tug for each factor.
Yeah, Mike,
you just reminded me they did that. They did do a jump scare there in the cave with the bat screech. I was like, oh come on. It bothered me. I was like,
that was pretty.
I caught that and it pissed me off.
It's.
But they always piss me off. I'm not hiding who I am. I don't like jump scares. I think they're stupid and played out cliches.
Mike, I want you to deny yourself for the purposes of the show. Suppress your true self and accept the occasional jump scare.
Accept that Neil McDonough is real. This guy real.
That's gonna be a tough one.
I love when he goes to choke Boyd out for no reason.
Yeah.
He's just like a pure like I'm dying and I'm pissed.
Well, he's dead because of you. It's this last attempt to rid him of his cowardice fucking life. Awesome.
He hates him because he's a coward, even though he's dead, dying. I hate you.
Also, you're gonna fall off a cliff and like land on him like perfectly. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let that one go.
Whatever. Yeah.
I was more pissed about the jump scare than that.
Right.
Okay. Well,
Eric, you picked this one. You want to lead us?
I hadn't seen it in a hell of a long time, so I was happy to return. We didn't get into too much of what I think is pretty blatant homoerotic context here between Boyd and Calhoun. I think if you look for it, it's definitely there in terms of, this or that. Maybe we shouldn't get too much into it, but I kind of dig that. What's the word I'm looking for? Enticement of this sort of thing. And I think it speaks for the, loving embrace and the bear trap too. Like when they're like just like stabbing each other and literally penetrating each other with these blades, it's kind of just like this like romantic duel to the death, in my opinion. That's interesting, something I didn't pick up on.
It's interesting to me that you see that, but
I definitely see it. But yeah, the entire movie is 100 minutes. It's just this brutal, grisly, ferocious, fun ride. It's really hard not to like because it's so unique, especially for 1999, man. And especially considering all the studio interference, this should have been a fucking unwatchable mess. And yet we're talking about it today with pure glee, and it's got a big following, and for a good reason, man, because it knows what it is. It succeeds in exactly what it attempts from the first frames to the end. Awesome movie, man. If you haven't seen it, please check it out.
So it holds up for you?
Oh yeah, definitely holds up.
Great. I'll go ahead and jump in since you're the first time here, Mike. I'll lead off with a couple criticisms since I didn't really have much critical to say. I do like every time I watch the movie and they're in that bear trap at the end, I'm like, why are you just letting Carlyle go on? How many last words does the man need to have? Like it's just kind of like you said the last, you just kind of like drags on. So it always kind of irks me there, but that's just a minor complaint. And another maybe more adequate complaint. Or not necessarily complaint. I don't know. I like that George and Martha are in this film. I like that Martha is the guide. I like that Martha gets away at the end. I like that it's made pretty clear that they have been, that Martha and George were not the names that they were given at birth, that they've gone through some shit to end up where they're at. And they've been they're just kind of going along and trying to live in that world. So I think they do a pretty good job with them. I do think that if you have a movie and you're not going to have any black people in it whatsoever, and you're going to say it in 1847, and you're going to talk about how one fucking person in this movie who is black for half a second is a quote unquote servant, just use the word slave. Just use the word slave. So that was one thing watching it. I'm like, come on, man. Like, just why would you choose this word here? But these are kind of nitpicky, maybe minor complaints. Overall, to me, again, I would never have chosen this movie because I love this movie. I've loved this movie since I saw it, and I love it still. I think this movie is fan-fucking-tastic. I think it's funny. I think it's weird. I think it's unique. I think I think it has an emotional impact on me in some surprising ways too. I think that there's just a lot of meat here to chew on. Sorry to,
there it is.
Fall into that reviewer kind of pun, but there is. I mean, there's so many layers here to dig into and unpack. And I feel like we're $1.25 into this show now, but I could easily keep going. I could talk about this movie for a while, but we will wrap it up. And I will say that I still strongly feel like it holds up.
Cool.
Holds up.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, in the end, first time viewer officially, kind of an unofficial first time viewer in a way. It's a movie I've seen on screen a lot, and it's a doozy. It's got a lot to offer, and I wanted to talk about Robert Carlyle because we didn't talk about him enough, and I forgot that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really outstanding actor. I just love him. Anything I ever see him in, he's got such presence and power. He also knows how to throttle it down and jack it up whenever it's time to, whatever the situation calls for, he will be there. He sells being terrified when he's originally picked up outside, almost left for dead, out in the cold, and they save his life. And they jump into action to bring him back. And then he sells it as this menacing cannibal. So, sometimes one person alone can really bring you to a movie. And this isn't the case with this, but it certainly is somebody that I'd like to talk about more, or I need to view more. There's still more movies of his that I haven't seen. In fact, I'm sure there's a great majority I still haven't seen. So I'm going to focus on that. And then there's Guy Pearce, who's just always underrated. And some reason he kind of slipped away from big-time roles over these recent years, and maybe that was a choice, too. I mean, he's very famous in Australia. He's an Australian actor, so he'll always be, to me, he's right there with Russell Crowe in terms of the kings of being an actor in that realm. But he's so unique with what he can do with his eyes and his emotive responses without saying much. Isn't it roughly, it's like 25 minutes before he actually says his full first words of dialogue in this film?
Is that true?
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I never even noticed.
I believe
aside from the narration, spoken in the film, about 25 minutes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So not everybody can do that. So and I love the whole crew. The whole crew is fun. You're right. I'm like, oh man, I don't really want this movie to go down this road when they all get ambushed at the cave. I'd like to. I could see this being a fun road comedy. 1847, life on the road with this crew. You got the affable colonel and his hijinks going on with his crew. So this is a movie that you should enjoy, even if you're not into scarier movies or gorier films. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. But then again, I can't speak for you individually. Gore may be a big problem. All I can tell you is it's clever, it's well-paced, and it holds up. So, good time. Check it out, Ravenous. Clearly, you guys were onto something back in 1999.
We were. You missed out. You had so many opportunities.
I did. I know. I had so many opportunities, and I can never go back and get those. All I can do now is enjoy movies with my friends on the podcast, which is the Cinema 9 podcast. That's right. We get to do this every week, and we're pretty lucky. That's great.
We'll always have the trailer, too.
Wait a minute. Is it my turn to pick?
Yeah, but
I'm not even kidding right now.
You have no idea.
I'm not even kidding.
You have not picked something.
I got a list. I'll get the list. I just dawned upon me. I'm not even kidding.
Get the list
Holy
out.
Shit.
I think,
so
I don't know about you, man. I start dwelling on this shit weeks in advance, and I just go back and forth. I go through 6 different movies I'm going to choose. And here you are in the moment.
I know it sounds like a cop out, but It's all day long. I'm doing like 8 different things. Rarely do I just
You're
haven't been able to
busiest man in
focus
the
on the
world.
content.
You're the busiest
Right
person
now,
I know.
Right now I'm busy. Yes, I am. That's weird. But I got a whole list here, so we're okay. This is why preparation pays off. So yes, Eric chose this film. Thank you, Eric. Great selection with Ravenous.
Well done.
Next week's show, which will be episode 96, 4 away from 100.
96.
Don't forget, Podcasting After Dark is going to be on for 100. So we did 1999. Last week, Travis had us go to 2014, which was the most recent we've ever done, which I respect. And Predestination ended up being a big surprise in a good way.
Fun.
It really was. And by the way, there's a lot of cuts of the movie, shared clips on YouTube all over the place. There's a lot of fans of Predestination. And I learned that now, thanks to Travis. So for next week's show, I think I'm going to do this one. Now, apparently some people hate this movie, but I never understood that. It's got a lot of highbrow, big-time talent in it, and it's a movie from 2004. So we're going to go back to 2004, and we're going to do The Lady Killers.
Oh, okay. The Hanks one.
Tom Hanks, Marlon Wayans, J.K.
Coen brothers,
Simmons.
right? Coen brothers?
Coen brothers.
Coen
That's
brothers.
right.
The Lady Killers?
We're doing The Lady Killers.
Lady Killers.
People say it sucks, and I want to find out why. I also haven't seen it. I used to like it when it first came out. I watched it. I was like, oh, this movie's great. But I haven't seen it in 10 years at least.
Time to see if it holds
Put
up.
it on trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice for this. So we'll see.
All right, buddy. And we get to do the Coens.
Well,
oh, we've done the Coens.
Yeah.
Oh, we get to do the Coens again. Because we did Man Who Wasn't
Coens.
There. Yeah.
That's right.
We did do The Man Who Wasn't There, which is one I never saw. So, all right, that's the show. We've done it. Next week, we'll see you here on the Cinema Night Pod, cinemanightpod at protonmail.com for Travis Roy and the wonderfully esteemed Eric Brancham. Not that Travis isn't esteemed, actually. I don't even know why I did that now, because it seems like I'm esteeming one guy over the other. We love you all. You're all... Thank you very much. Good night.
Flower.